August 23, 1917, Houston, Texas, 9 p.m. Sergeant Vida Henry of the 24th United States Infantry Regiment walks through the camp at night. He's 38 years old, a career soldier with 20 years of service. He's survived campaigns in the Philippines, deployments along the Mexican border, and countless training rotations. Tonight, he's about to lead over 100 soldiers into downtown Houston with loaded rifles. The 24th Infantry arrived in Houston 4 weeks ago. They're building Camp Logan, a training facility for soldiers heading to France. They're combat veterans, disciplined troops, professional soldiers. They expected to be treated as defenders of the nation. Instead, Houston police have beaten them, arrested them for using white water fountains, and enforced Jim Crow laws with clubs and pistols. Earlier today, 2 military policemen from the 24th were beaten and arrested by Houston police. Rumors spread through camp that one was killed. Now Sergeant Henry assembles soldiers in the company street. He issues ammunition. He doesn't ask for volunteers. He orders men to fall in. Some refuse. Most don't. At 9:30 p.m., approximately 156 soldiers march out of Camp Logan toward downtown Houston. They carry Springfield rifles, loaded magazines, and orders from Sergeant Henry. They're going to free the arrested MPs and confront the police who beat them. By midnight, 20 people will be dead. By December, 19 soldiers will hang. By August 1918, 13 more will be executed. This is the Houston Riot of 1917. The largest murder trial in American history, and the event that nearly ended black military service in the U.S. Army. If you want military history that shows what really happened when authority failed soldiers, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. This story was classified and suppressed for decades. The 24th United States Infantry Regiment has a distinguished record when it arrives in Houston. Formed in 1869 during Reconstruction, the 24th is one of 4 segregated black regiments in the regular Army, the others being the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 25th Infantry. These units, called Buffalo Soldiers by Native Americans they fought on the frontier, serve with distinction for nearly 50 years. The 24th fights in the Indian Wars, deploys to Cuba during the Spanish-American War, serves in the Philippines during the insurrection, and patrols the Mexican border during the Pancho Villa raids. The regiment earns a reputation for discipline, professionalism, and combat effectiveness. In July 1917, the War Department assigns the 3rd Battalion, 24th Infantry to Houston. Their mission? Provide security and labor for construction of Camp Logan, a massive training facility being built to prepare soldiers for deployment to France. America entered World War I in April. The Army needs training camps fast. The battalion consists of approximately 650 men, mostly from Companies 1, K, L, and M. Officers are white. NCOs and enlisted men are black. This is standard for all black units in 1917. Major Neelan Snow commands the battalion. Captain Bartlett James commands I Company. The senior NCO is First Sergeant Vida Henry, I Company, a career soldier respected throughout the regiment. The soldiers arrive expecting typical garrison duty. They've served at posts across the American West and Southwest. They know Jim Crow exists, but on military reservations, they're federal soldiers under military law. Local segregation ordinances don't apply on base. Houston is different. The city operates under strict racial segregation. Separate water fountains, separate streetcar sections, separate parks, separate everything. Houston police enforce these laws aggressively, particularly against black soldiers who don't understand or accept local customs. Within days of arrival, conflicts begin. Soldiers use white water fountains because they don't see segregation signs or because they're federal troops who don't recognize municipal authority. Police respond with clubs and arrests. Soldiers accuse police of brutality. Police accuse soldiers of insubordination. The provost marshal at Camp Logan, Major Snow, tries to mediate. He meets with Houston Police Chief Clarence Brock and requests restraint when dealing with soldiers. Brock refuses to grant military personnel any special consideration. Houston law applies to everyone, regardless of uniform. Private Alonzo Edwards describes the atmosphere. "We came to build a camp so men could train to fight Germany. Houston police treated us like criminals. They'd stop us on the street, demand we use back entrances, arrest us for talking to white women, which meant talking to any woman in public." The tension escalates through July and early August. Multiple soldiers are beaten during arrests. Officers file complaints through military channels. Nothing changes. Houston's mayor and police chief maintain that soldiers must obey local ordinances or face arrest like any other black resident. The Army's position is contradictory. Officers tell soldiers to avoid confrontations and obey local customs. But soldiers are federal troops, theoretically under military jurisdiction. The ambiguity creates confusion and resentment. By mid-August, the situation is volatile. Soldiers discuss the treatment openly. Some advocate direct confrontation. NCOs try to maintain discipline, but even sergeants are angry. They've served 10, 15, 20 years in the Army. They've fought in real wars. Being beaten by city police for using water fountains feels like betrayal. August 23, 1917 begins like any other day. Soldiers work construction details at Camp Logan. The heat is oppressive. Houston in August regularly exceeds 95 degrees. Men work through the afternoon, finish details, and return to barracks. Around 11 a.m., two military policemen from the 24th, Corporal Charles Baltimore and Private Alonzo Edwards, respond to a disturbance call in the San Felipe district, a black neighborhood near Camp Logan. They're investigating a domestic dispute when Houston police officers Lee Sparks and Rufus Daniels arrive. What happens next is disputed. According to police, Baltimore interfered with an arrest. According to witnesses, Sparks beat Baltimore with a pistol, then arrested him. Edwards tries to intervene and is also beaten and arrested. Both soldiers are taken to Houston Police Headquarters. Rumor spreads through Camp Logan that Baltimore was killed during the arrest. The rumor is false. Baltimore is bruised, but alive. But soldiers believe it. First Sergeant Vida Henry makes the decision around 8:30 p.m. Henry is 38, a 20-year veteran. He served in Cuba, the Philippines, and along the Mexican border. He holds the regiment's highest enlisted rank. He's responsible, disciplined, respected. He's exactly the kind of NCO the Army trusts to maintain order. Tonight, he decides order requires force. Henry believes Baltimore is dead. Multiple soldiers report seeing police beat Baltimore unconscious, then drag him to a patrol wagon. When officers at Camp Logan fail to get information from Houston police about Baltimore's status, Henry concludes the worst. He walks through the company area, informing soldiers to prepare for action. Some accounts suggest he's acting under stress or temporary insanity. Others suggest he's making a calculated decision to confront police brutality with armed force. Private James Wheatley later testifies, "Sergeant Henry came through the barracks around 8:30. He said Baltimore was dead. He said we were going into Houston to get the men who killed him. He said fall in with rifles and ammunition." Not all soldiers comply. Some refuse outright. Some hide. Some try to talk Henry out of the plan. But approximately 156 soldiers assemble in the company street with loaded rifles. Major Snow is not on base. He's in downtown Houston at a meeting. Captain James is present, but apparently unaware of Henry's actions until soldiers are already forming up. When James tries to intervene, soldiers ignore him. Some accounts suggest soldiers physically restrain officers to prevent interference. At approximately 9 p.m., the column moves out. They march in formation, rifles at shoulder arms, moving west toward downtown Houston. They're not a mob. They're a military formation under NCO command, executing what Henry believes is a justified response to the murder of a fellow soldier. The march route takes them through residential areas. Civilians see soldiers moving in formation and assume it's a training exercise. Some wave. The soldiers don't respond. Around 9:20 p.m., the column reaches San Felipe Road near the edge of downtown. Henry halts the formation and addresses the men. Multiple survivors later describe this moment, Henry explaining they're going to confront Houston police, free any arrested soldiers, and demand respect for the uniform. Then Henry gives an order that changes everything. "Load and lock." Soldiers chamber rounds. Safeties click off. This is no longer a protest march. It's an armed assault. The first shots are fired around 9:30 p.m. near the intersection of San Felipe and Washington Avenue. Houston police officer Rufus Daniels, one of the officers involved in Baltimore's arrest earlier that day, encounters the formation. He draws his pistol. Soldiers open fire. Daniels falls, hit multiple times. He dies at the scene. The sound of rifle fire alerts police across downtown Houston. Officers respond, not knowing they're facing a military formation. Several police engage the soldiers directly. The soldiers have military rifles, discipline, and superior numbers. The police have pistols and confusion. Captain James Mattis of the Houston Police Department arrives at the scene and attempts to organize a response. He's shot and killed within minutes. 4 more police officers are killed in the opening exchanges. The soldiers move through the San Felipe district, firing at police, white civilians, and anyone they perceive as threatening. The shooting is not indiscriminate, but it's widespread. Survivors describe soldiers firing at specific targets: police, armed civilians, men in positions suggesting threat. 11 white civilians died during the riot. Most are men who armed themselves and confronted the soldiers. Some are bystanders. The soldiers don't distinguish. Anyone white in the area is perceived as hostile. 4 black civilians also die, caught in crossfire or mistaken for threats in the darkness. The firefight lasts approximately 2 hours. By 11:30 p.m., soldiers begin returning to Camp Logan. Some return in formation. Others drift back individually. Some disappear into the surrounding area and are arrested days later. Sergeant Henry does not return. His body is found the next morning near the camp perimeter. He died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. He left no note, no explanation. Soldiers who knew him believe he realized the magnitude of what happened and chose death over capture. By midnight, Houston Police and Texas National Guard units secure downtown. The 24th Infantry's remaining soldiers are confined to Camp Logan under guard. The casualty count: 15 white civilians dead, 4 police officers dead, 4 black civilians dead, 1 soldier dead, Henry. 12 others are wounded. This is the story of soldiers who fought back against police brutality and faced mass execution for it. If you want military history that doesn't sanitize institutional failures, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The trials that followed set legal precedents still debated today. The Army moves fast. Within 48 hours, the entire 3rd Battalion is disarmed and placed under arrest. The War Department orders a general court-martial for all soldiers suspected of participating in the riot. The Army appoints Major General John Ruckman to convene the court. The first trial begins November 1st, 1917, just 70 days after the riot. 63 soldiers are charged with mutiny, murder, and assault. The prosecution is led by Judge Advocate General's Office attorneys. The defense consists of Army lawyers assigned to the case with minimal preparation time. The trial lasts 22 days. The prosecution presents testimony from Houston police, civilian witnesses, and soldiers who remained in barracks during the riot. The evidence is substantial. Multiple witnesses identify specific soldiers firing weapons, participating in the march, or following Sergeant Henry's orders. The defense argues the soldiers acted under extreme duress, believing a fellow soldier had been murdered and that officers failed to protect them from police brutality. The defense also argues that the Army's unclear jurisdiction and contradictory orders created an impossible situation. The court-martial board consists of senior Army officers, all white. They deliberate for hours. On November 28, 1917, the verdict. 13 soldiers are sentenced to death by hanging. 41 received life sentences. The remaining defendants receive shorter prison terms. The condemned men: Corporal Robert Tillman, Sergeant William Nesbitt, Private James Divins, Private Frank Johnson, Private Marcellus Dorsey, Private Thomas Hawkins, Private William Breckenridge, Private Pat McWhorter, Private James Wheatley, Private Risley Young, Private Jesse Moore, Private Edward Bradley, and Private Oscar Mason. Under military law, death sentences require presidential review before execution. Soldiers condemned to death have the right to appeal to the president for clemency. This process typically takes months. The Army doesn't wait. On December 11, 1917, 13 days after sentencing, the 13 condemned soldiers are hanged at Camp Travis near San Antonio. They receive no appeals process, no presidential review, no clemency hearing. The executions are carried out before families are notified, before lawyers can file appeals, before the public knows sentences have been imposed. The speed of execution shocks even military legal experts. The Army's stated justification: wartime necessity requires swift justice to maintain discipline. Critics argue the executions are summary punishment designed to intimidate black soldiers across the Army. 2 more trials follow. In February 1918, 15 more soldiers are tried. 5 receive death sentences. In March 1918, a 3rd trial results in additional death sentences. In total, 19 soldiers are executed by hanging. 53 receive life sentences. Dozens more receive prison terms ranging from 2 to 15 years. The executed men's bodies are buried in military cemeteries without markers. Families are not permitted to claim remains. The Army treats the executed soldiers as criminals, not fallen servicemen. The Houston Riot trials become the largest murder trial in American history. 110 soldiers tried, 19 executed, 53 sentenced to life imprisonment. The NAACP challenges the legality of the first 13 executions, arguing the Army violated military law by executing soldiers without presidential review. The War Department responds that commanding generals have authority to carry out sentences in combat zones during wartime. Houston is not a combat zone, but the Army maintains the principle applies. W.E.B. Du Bois writes in the Crisis magazine, 13 soldiers were hanged at dawn before the sun could witness this nation's shame. They received no appeals, no clemency, no mercy. They died for resisting the very oppression America claims to fight in Europe. President Wilson is informed of the executions after they occur. He expresses no public opinion. Privately, administration officials suggest Wilson was troubled by the speed of execution, but declined to intervene in military justice. The remaining condemned soldiers, those sentenced in the 2nd and 3rd trials, do receive presidential review. Wilson commutes some death sentences to life imprisonment. 6 more soldiers are executed in August 1918, bringing the total to 19 hanged. The 24th Infantry Regiment continues to serve. The regiment deploys to the Philippines in 1918, deliberately removed from European deployment consideration. The Army's message is clear. Black combat troops cannot be trusted in France after Houston. This decision affects all black soldiers. Plans to deploy black combat divisions to France are scaled back. The 92nd and 93rd Infantry Divisions eventually deploy, but under restrictions and with minimal support. Houston casts a shadow over black military service that lasts decades. In 1938, the Army reviews the Houston Riot sentences. 10 soldiers serving life sentences receive clemency and are released after serving 20-plus years. Others remain imprisoned until the 1940s. In 1976, nearly 60 years after the riot, the Army conducts another review. The Army's conclusion? The trials were legally conducted under military law of the era, but the immediate execution of 13 soldiers without appeals was improper. The Army issues no official apology or exoneration. In 2023, descendants of the executed soldiers petition the Army for posthumous exoneration. As of 2024, the petition remains under review. The 24th Infantry Regiment served until 1951, when it was deactivated during Korean War reorganization. The regiment's service included World War II campaigns in the Pacific. It never returned to Houston.